So let's talk a little bit about excipient functionality and how that's really playing into the need to level the playing field for excipients. Bill and then Sherry, I would like to see if each of you could comment on how formulators and manufacturers using excipients today, how that's different from 10 years ago and how QBD has really affected that. Bill, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I guess the biggest change I've seen over the past 10 years is the fact that people are starting to recognize excipients do have some functions in the formulation. For those who have been out there, USP has a poster paper, and the first sentence reads, excipients are not inert. And it's very true. They also have a little bit of a USP approach timeline. And in 2005, the European Pharmacopoeia first introduced functional characteristics testing into their monographs. USP is doing it more as a general chapter. The whole poster is on chapter 1059. But I think the real key is, again, there's more of an understanding now that the excipients do serve a function. It could be, a processing issue where it helps the lubricity of the formulation if you're pressing tablets. It could affect the final dissolution. You could use them as solubilizers. But the key is that those excipients do perform a function, and therefore there needs to be an understanding of how do we assess that functionality. You mentioned QBD. I think that's been a very interesting initiative by the FDA. It's really forcing the drug manufacturers to prove an understanding of the formulation, of their process, understanding how those different components in the formulation affect the end product dissolution, how their process affects, and how they can control those in order to achieve a consistent product. The other thing it's done is it's required them to do some, use the term DOE, or design of experiments. They need to develop a design space for the formulation, for the process, so they now can understand how things fit all together so that if they see a change in something, in formulation in one of the raw materials, they have the ability to control that further on downstream.
It's very interesting that people were questioning whether excipient is perform a function. In matter of fact, the QA, pharmaceutical development, require you delineate your each component, including excipient, for a function. For example, surfactant or even diluent is serving a very, very important function. I think, at least for myself, for the past 20, 30 years, I have viewed excipient vendors as my partners, because only when I make product that in the market, the excipient supplier can make money as well. So the excipient as my partner, like Ranga himself and Dow Chemical, as well as a lot of other companies, have given me such a wonderful support. I really want to show my appreciation, because all the basic data and how you use a particular excipient originated from the vendors. So I think in terms of pharmaceutical company making a product versus the excipient vendor, we are really in a partnership situation. And it's very important that as a formulator, utilize these resources and try to come up with better performing formulations.
Thank you. Speaking of partnerships and working with suppliers, Dale, I was wondering if you could comment on some recent IPEC initiatives, specifically the excipient qualification standard that IPEC came out with, and also yesterday we heard that ANSI accredited the IPEA audit program, and I think we've all heard the status of those programs, but I was wondering if you could tell the audience how can they benefit from these programs now?
Well, IPEC has, like you said, several programs and come out with several programs. The IPEA certification is now a, what you might say, vetted process where ANSI has looked at their procedures, have looked at how they audit, how a independent review board reviews these audits, and how they issue a certification to GMP. So there's a sense of transparency, but there is also an oversight now that has said this is a process that works, that has controls, so you can use this to evaluate and determine if this supplier is meeting the GMP and manufacturing to the GMP in place of your own audit. So this is a very good process and very helpful process. And of course, the IPEC GMPs and the IPEC audit guide are all the foundation for that, okay, and went into their procedures. IPEC also has a qualification guide that really has bridged the gap. It's kind of like starting the dating process for two people. You know, somebody needs to get there to get the conversation going. But when you start to formulate a drug, you need to ask certain questions up front because for a single USP or NF product, okay, a monograph, a company may supply several different item codes, all designed to have a certain functionality. So if it's a citric acid, there may be a powder or a fine granular or whatever. There may be, for certain other ones, they are granulated or combined to function in a drug manufacturing process. And so all of this is outside of the USP in that monograph, and the excipient qualification guides lead you through at which step in the process, how should you communicate, what should you exchange, so that at the end, after clinical trials, you didn't just go to your warehouse, pick 3 lots, and say, oh, well, this looks like it'll work, with the manufacturer not being involved, and they say, you know, it just happened that those 3 lots had those characteristics, but on average, we're a little outside of that. And all of a sudden, you're in that quagmire of, oh my gosh, I can't get what I wanted. It is just approved, I'm ready to go, and I'm in a tough situation. Excipient qualification guide gets around that and really helps you move. So those are the excipient information package. It's like the MSDS does for safety. This does it for information that you need to exchange between 2 parties. And what it does is instead of all the companies sending out their own little questionnaire, and they're in different orders, and so there's no way for a company to update everybody if they have, hey, we changed the address, we changed this, we changed this. There's no way to respond. If you use the excipient information package, a manufacturer of an excipient can tell all of their customers, hey, this section is now updated. And in the same way, if you've got the information updated and current, you can quickly review and assess your suppliers. So it's all part of one package. And we're about to release a template quality agreement, which is another part of this whole qualification part. It's part of the communication, so each understands their responsibilities, and we're really upfront, and we can see that, hey, as a drug maker, when I receive something and as I use it in my drug making process, my controls fit with the risk that the supplier says, okay, here's what we're doing, and those two fit together to end up with patient safety.
Another program I know that IPEC has also recently been working on is the novel excipient safety evaluation procedure, and we did hear about that a little bit yesterday. But I wanted to know, why was this necessary to have?
If you look at it, for a new excipient to be approved, there's no way for that to happen outside of a drug application, okay, and a new drug application or the ANDA, okay, and so what that does is that technology is increasing. There are a lot of excipients out there. There are a lot of new APIs that require novel ways to deliver those to the patients. And there's excipients that have been made that can really help advance the stability of drugs, the bioavailability of drugs, and really help in the market. But because there is a concern, well, I don't want to risk my drug product, my whole launch. That's what I'm graded on by my boss, by trying an excipient that's never been through any process before. I'm just going to stick with what's there. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is patients are deprived of new technology and new benefits. And overall, the whole science of medicine suffers. The novel excipient evaluation process allows you to go through a safety evaluation that IPEC formulated and contracted to a company by Dr. Bob Osterberg that puts together a panel that reviews this like an FDA reviewer would, the safety information, and gives back, okay, here's how we've evaluated the safety information that has been submitted. Then a company can take that and include that with their drug application. It gives them a little more confidence going forward to use a new excipient. But the IPEC recognized that, hey, the whole industry is falling behind. We're going to stay in the dark ages. We're building a big wall, putting our heads in the sand, and it's going to, in the end, deprive patients of better medicines. We wanted a way around that. We wanted a way to move this forward so that new excipients could hit the market, better drugs could be made, and that's where we started this process.
Right, and I understand that there's a fear of using anything new, but Ranga, your BASF, you benefited directly from this pilot program. Could you talk about what benefits the company has seen and the results that you've gotten from going through the pilot?
Sure. One of the challenges we have in the excipient industry is there is, of course, the price pressure, and there is also good manufacturing practice and supply chain pressures that are very real. And obviously, these are very challenging, and the challenge doesn't stop there. We have to be innovative and discover and produce new excipients that meet the, as Dale said, that meet the requirements for new therapies. And in our experience, that although as I talk about the price pressures in terms of meeting GMP compliance and meeting the expectations of FDA and European regulators, and now more prominently Asian regulators, we are also conscious of the fact that an excipient company can survive on the long run if it's innovative. And we're very encouraged that innovation is not only encouraged by basically industry associations, which are our competitors. We are all competitors with each other, but then we're working together to bring a common forum to make companies, everybody realize that excipient innovation is very important. We're also very encouraged that FDA has been proactively encouraging industry to bring forward new excipients, and with the available good safety data, I've not seen so far any excipients in our experience any drug product rejected because of the excipient safety. And of course, you have to provide extensive safety information, but FDA is very encouraging and in promoting the innovation in the excipient area to improve human therapy. So we're very encouraged with that. Conceptually, with that kind of mindset, BASF has invested significant amount of money in bringing new excipients. And you have to recognize bringing a new excipient is as painful and as expensive as bringing a new drug product online. It's almost 5 to 10 years of innovation and discovery, and then another 5 years of approval are used in FDA-approved drug, which goes through several phases in terms of in producing a consistently high-quality excipient, which is new chemistry, is challenging in itself. And then producing it on a commercial scale, 20 to 50 metric ton scale, is also challenging. So we are doing this because we are encouraged by the industry's willingness, like Dr. Koo mentioned, that sorbitol HS15, in the case of sorbitol HS15, the industry, like Wyeth, was very proactive in taking the challenge of using a new excipient and taking the risks. And moving forward and coming with the IPEC process, we have been very fortunate to take the sorbitol HS15 from industry formulation development to the doorstep of FDA in terms of getting a review by FDA, and then to the doorstep of USP to request FDA whether or not they're happy with the toxicology review process under the IPEC program. And then when FDA came back to USP and told USP that we are convinced that this is adequately safe and we can provide an official monograph, we have accomplished that. So,
right. And Catherine, you did publish a new monograph outside of the NDA process for this. Is that a new trend, perhaps, where excipients coming through this pilot program might get published as a monograph?
Yes, it actually was the first of its kind for USP. Traditionally, as everybody is aware here, there is no independent approval process for an excipient. So essentially, what we look at in terms of establishing an NF monograph is anything that's in the in FDA CDER's inactive ingredient database. Essentially, that indicates to the industry at large and to USP that if it's on that list, it's permitted for use in an approved drug dosage form in the U.S. So essentially, if you get on that list, you have a clear path to get into the NF compendium. So this was a very novel, use the word novel, approach to introducing a new excipient into the NF. And one of the key points to bring to attention here is that there is a guidance, FDA guidance for industry, drug product, chemistry, manufacturing controls information. They have a definition for novel excipient. And essentially, that would be any excipient used for the first time in a human drug product in the United States or by a new route of administration. So there are two aspects to the definition of novel. So we did work with BASF, and critical to the development of this monograph and critical to FDA's confidence in allowing USP to propose this in PF was the fact that it had gone through the IPEC safety evaluation review panel. I'd like to also add to that, if anybody has checked out the website, the USP website, and are familiar with the pending monograph process that pertains to the APIs, what we've done is we basically looked at the pending monograph process, and we discovered that we might want to look at this in terms of excipients because it did not include excipients. And what that was set in place to do for the actives was that any generic company that was in the process of or contemplating submitting an ANDA, or they were waiting for approval, that this would be a vehicle for getting exposure for the standard. So we feel that to use this route for excipients could help a lot of industries, let's say, bring more exposure to the standard, the specification, and perhaps be a first step in the process of getting these types of novel excipients into official status. Okay. It's going to be a long process, but I think it's a good start in getting that standard exposed to pharmaceutical companies and getting the excipient industry, giving them a platform for getting that standard published.
Okay, thank you for that update too. Rosa, in light of, with the novel excipient safety program and USP's monograph, do you foresee FDA becoming more open to the idea of novel excipients outside of the NDA process, or will they still need to go through the full NDA process?
It is not FDA's intent to preclude industry from developing new technologies. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? It is not FDA's intent, and it's never been. It's clearly stated in the preamble to the GMPs to preclude industry from developing new technologies that have been proven to increase the quality of a product. As a matter of fact, and I know that several people mentioned this guidance, the FDA published guidance in 2006 is non-clinical studies for the safety evaluation of pharmaceutical excipients. And the purpose of this document is to give industry a pass through identifying the safety of an excipient so that it could be used as a component in a drug product. I think the important thing is to determine a risk-benefit of the component such that you can use it at the level that is safe for the consumer.
Thank you. Catherine, I would like, Sherry.
Yes, I just want to add to what Catherine said. I want to applaud the concerted effort between IPEC, USP, and FDA to make this solitol monograph happen, because it is indeed a historical event. Let me explain why it's so important. When we do regulatory filing, which I do every month, for the excipient, you fall into 3 different categories. Number 1 is called companion excipient. All you have to do is just list the name, USP/NF. You get it done. You don't need any more information. The second category would be pertaining to calico and the open dry. It is non-compendium, but is in the IIG, the inactive ingredient guide. Therefore, you can list it saying it is in the IIG, this is the specification, and that's the end of the story. The third area is non-compendium, non-IIG excipient. You have to go through the whole 9 yards with all the safety, animal data, the users outside U.S., in other countries, so on and so forth, including veterinary. So it's eon thick. And we have to do that not only for U.S., we have to do that for every country we do the filing. Okay, it's substantial resources because nowadays we do clinical trial multinational. We never do clinical trial in just one country. Typically, it's involved like 15 different countries. That's why we work so hard, try to make this happen. I also want to share with you a story to encourage you. YS is a very traditional and conservative company. When the 2005, the guidance on excipient was issued as a draft, I got that draft through my toxicology VP. She sent me the draft and telling me, Sherry, it's very tough. We have to make sure all the excipients we used are in the IIG. And then shortly after, she or the VP established a committee that have to review every formulation we come up with, make sure it's within the IIG. So what I want to say is that the hindrance is high, the barrier is high, but there is always a way. So I want to encourage you, try to work in this direction because innovation is the engine for productivity. Unless we continue with the innovation, then the U.S. will not retain its leading position for pharmaceutical industry. Thank you.